All right, everybody. Looks like you made it to video number 2, where we're going to talk about an introduction to 3D printing. Wanted to just talk to you a little bit about how I relate this to the gospel principle that we were talking about in video number 1. And it's just simply that Heavenly Father blesses us with different ways of accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish. And 3D printing to me is a great example of that. There's so many traditional ways of manufacturing and making things that 3D printing has made easier. And it's just a different way of doing things. And so to me, that kind of fits hand in hand with what we were talking about earlier, that as we go and do the things that the Lord has commanded us, we'll run into speed bumps. And when we run into those bumps, we need to not give up and find other ways to do things. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about 3D printing and why I think it's so cool. Okay, I think the most basic question is to ask ourselves, what is 3D printing? I'm sure you all have a printer at home that takes text or pictures or two-dimensional objects from your computer and prints them on a two-dimensional medium like paper or cardstock or things of that nature. I'm sure all of you have those at home, and they're very useful to do schoolwork and business work, things of that nature. But 3D printing is something, it's also known as additive manufacturing. And it is used to build three-dimensional objects from CAD or computer-aided design software or from digital models. And it's really amazing what it's done. It's made the production of professional quality parts and objects accessible to the masses. Whereas before you needed whole design teams and manufacturing processes and equipment in place. You maybe even needed a factory to make things. Now it all can be done from a computer or a tablet or even a phone and your 3D printer. It can be used in a variety of settings, and like I said, it is really, really cool. All right, so maybe you're asking yourself, well, what exactly can a 3D printer make? And so I just came up with a quick list of things that were easy to think of that 3D printers can make. They can make mechanical parts for different things, machines. I've made mechanical parts out of resin for my dental office, things that would have cost me $100, $200. I'm able to do for a few dollars worth of resin. You can make action figures. So people like to make superhero figures and Dungeons and Dragons figures. People do artwork with 3D printers. Jewelry is a big thing. You make jewelry, and that's we're going to try and have you do at least part of it with making your own CTR ring. You can even print a house. If you look on YouTube, you'll see videos of 3D printed houses. Just amazing. And they print with cement. Super cool. Statues are made. There's actually an NFL football stadium being made in Las Vegas right now, being constructed. It's almost done. And when it's complete, it will have the world's largest 3D printed object. It will have I guess it's a torch that's like 5 stories high, and it's going to be on one end of the stadium.
Students at Israel's Tel Aviv University have just successfully 3D printed a heart made from real human cells.
So again, super cool.
Previously, this was only achieved with non-organic materials such as silicon.
cars.
Beyond incredible potential breakthrough in making organs in a lab.
Israeli researchers have printed a 3D heart complete with muscle and blood vessels.
Explained that the cells that made the heart came from a donor's fat tissue, which were then transformed into embryonic stem cells and then differentiated into the various cell types in the heart.
The heart is small, only about the size of a rabbit's heart. However, researchers were able to create chambers and veins which nobody had previously achieved before. The researchers envisioned creating 3D printed hearts suitable for human transplants and also patches which can regenerate defective tissue. Professor Tal Dever, who led the project, stated, quote, "This was the first time anyone anywhere had successfully engineered and printed an..."
About that last one, because truly, almost anything you can imagine can be printed with a 3D printer.
Researchers at Israel's Tel Aviv University have just successfully 3D printed a heart made from real human cells. Previously, this was only achieved with non-organic materials such as silicon.
Beyond incredible potential breakthrough in making organs in a lab.
Israeli researchers have printed a 3D heart complete with muscle and blood vessels.
Explained that the cells that made the heart came from a donor's fat tissue, which were then transformed into embryonic stem cells and then differentiated into the various cell types in the heart.
The heart is small, only about the size of a rabbit's heart. However, researchers were able to create chambers and veins which nobody had previously achieved before. The researchers envisioned creating 3D printed hearts suitable for human transplants and also patches which can regenerate defective tissue. Professor Tal Dever, who led the project, stated, quote, "This was the first time anyone anywhere had successfully engineered and printed an..."
Yeah, so I mean, how cool is that? That someday organs will be printed. And they did this from fat cells from a donor, and were able to, through different scientific manipulations and lab processes, they were able to take those fat cells and differentiate them into stem cells and then print a heart. Amazing. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, there are basically two types of 3D printers. I mean, there are different variations of these types of printers, so I guess you could say there are more than two types, but for our purposes, there are really two types. The first type is the type that you see there on the first video, are filament style printers, and that is a printer where a long, I guess, reel of plastic filament is attached to the printer, and then it is heated up, and then it is deposited according to the 3D design, and it creates a object. And so we've got just a time-lapse view of a print there of a filament printer printing the Eiffel Tower. And so I just kind of skipped through it because I didn't want to spend too much time going through that, but it's amazing. So it just, on the build plate, it prints out of plastic the object that was created in the design software. So that's the first style of printer. The advantage of the filament style printers is that the filament is less expensive, and also the printing process is much faster. The other type of printer is the resin printer. And I'm going to show you a time-lapse video of this one. And this one is interesting because basically you take a bottle of photo-curing resin and you put it in a vat that's inside, or a tub inside of the printer, and then the object is actually pulled from that vat of liquid resin. And it's an amazing process. The advantage of the resin printers is that they are capable of much finer detail than the filament style printers. The drawback is they're more expensive, both to buy and then also to maintain and run because of the cost of the materials. And they are also quite a bit slower in their printing than a filament style printer. All right. So let's get to it. I talked to you last night about some design software. Now, there are lots of different types of design software. There are some that are used in the dental industry and my industry, and they are sold in modules, believe it or not, and each module is about $5,000. So it can be really expensive. And that's just for dental. I'm sure in the medical field, the costs are astronomical. But you have access to a free design software. It's very basic, but for learning the basics, it's really kind of a cool program. And so I've got a video here that's going to show you how to log in and create an account to this software called Tinkercad. So if you watch the video, you're just going to open up your internet browser and you're going to go to www.tinkercad.com. All right. When you do that, this startup screen is going to come up and you are going to click on the Join Now button there in the upper right-hand corner. Come on, buddy. Go up there. Click on Join Now. There we go. Then you're going to click on Create a Personal Account. Now, I've already created an account, so I'm going to go to Sign In. But you would create an account with an email and a username, and you would set a password, and you would log in. Once you have logged in, the first time, there are several tutorials, 3 or 4 I think, that show you the basic operations in Tinkercad and how to do things. That's probably the best way for you to learn how to use the software because it walks you step by step through the basics and you don't have to really do any research or thinking. Once you have gone through the tutorials, you go ahead and you can start, they call it tinkering. You start tinkering. You can start making your design. And remember, I had given you the challenge to make a CTR ring. This is one that I whipped up. I think it took 5 or 10 minutes for me to make this one. Pretty basic. You guys can make a CTR ring to rule them all if you want. Keep in mind that there is a scale and you'll want to measure so that it actually fits your finger. If you make something that's too big, number one, it might not be able to be printed. And number two, I don't know if I want to waste all of my resin on that. So try and make one that actually fits your finger. When you're done, send me the file that results. You can see up there in the corner upper right, there is an export button and also a send to button, and you can use those features to send me the file, and you can just send it to my email address is bartdavis@outlook.com. Once you do that and you complete that, I will deliver to you a king-size candy bar as your reward, and I will also print your ring out for you, so you can see how it turned out. Finally, the third video on my YouTube channel, remember it's just Barton Davis. The third video, you don't have to watch it, but if you want to learn more and see some more features of Tinkercad, there is I think it's about 22 minutes long, but it's a more extensive tutorial about Tinkercad if you want to watch that. But otherwise, happy tinkering. I'm excited to see you guys on Friday, and I hope everything goes well for you. Have a good day.